This is NFA Talk, the show that talks about guns and gun rights, keeping you up to date with what's currently going on, from the newest guns, promotions, and events, plus how we're lobbying for your rights.
Welcome back to NFA Talk. I'm your host, Nathaniel Milger. With me tonight is President Rick Igercich and Vice President Blair Hagen. How are you doing, guys?
Good, Nathan. How are you doing?
Not bad at all. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. All that jazz.
Happy to be here.
Right on.
Same to you and same to our listeners out there. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Absolutely. Well, and it's been a heck of a year here. So how do you guys want to start?
What about the turbulent year we've had? Well, yeah, it was pretty turbulent. A lot of stuff happened. As everybody knows, Bill C-21 became a law just at the end of the year. The Liberals pushed it through real quick. I'm sure that's all in their election scheme. It was basically at the end, it was fast-tracked. NFA participated at Sec D in the Senate. We gave the senators a chance to hear our side of it, mostly to deaf ears, but we were there. We were there for our people, and we'll continue to be there for our people. Blair?
Yeah, this has been a very, very, I think turbulent is the way to put it. And I hope people remember this because, we used to think in terms of, the bad old days and some of the legislation that was visited on us in the past. But what the Liberals have done since they gained power in 2016 has been one relentless attack on the rights and freedoms of Canadians. Bill C-71, the May 2020 OIC, handgun freeze, Bill C-21, but it's different this time. Okay, this actually provides for the confiscation of property and the denial of the rights of legitimate use and economic potential of that property. Okay, well, you can keep it, but you can't use it, you can't sell it. Well, it's mine. Is it mine or not? Well, according to this government, it's not your property. It's something different. It's a gray area. And I think that's something everybody should be disturbed by. And I know the viewers of this program are. And I can tell you that it's broader than that. It's all parts of Canadian society now who are sitting up and looking at the actions of this government and going, there's something very wrong here. It's not just guns. It's everything.
Yeah. And the thing is with C-21 too, and we're going to touch on it a bit tonight. It's everybody knows the main purpose of the bill was the handgun freeze and stopping the imports of handguns into Canada. But there's also a bunch of amendments that are going to affect not only handguns but long guns, magazine capacity, pinned magazines, some definitions. And one of them is the Liberals in their not so ultimate wisdom decided to put a definition on an assault type or assault style firearm, and they came up with one, even though there is not a definition anywhere else on the planet. The Justin Trudeau Liberals decided to come up with one, and maybe Blair can explain what they define as an assault style weapon. They like to use the word weapon a lot.
Yeah, no, and it's a different delineation this time. As we all know, what is an assault rifle or an assault weapon? It is a select fire firearm, a firearm that is capable of both automatic fire and semi-automatic fire. That is the true definition. What they are doing now is creating new definitions to suit their purposes. And you heard a lot of this in the rhetoric of the government, semi-automatic assault style firearms. So basically what they are purporting to base all of this on is the look of the firearm. It's not the function of the firearm. It's the look of the firearm. It's a social engineering exercise rather than having anything to do with public safety. I know I'm preaching to the converted here. Everybody, on this panel, everybody who's watching now knows firearms, understands firearms, what they can do and what they can't do. So this is a definition created solely to advance the agenda of this particular government. So it is meant to attack things like modern sporting rifles, okay, specifically to do that. this definition is basically meant to prevent any further modern sporting rifles for being approved for sale in Canada. What they're going to do about everything that's already here, they don't even know about that. Okay, Canadians own all types of firearms, all types of modern sporting firearms. Some of them were targeted by the May 2020 OIC. A lot of them were targeted under Bill C-21. And the fact of the matter is the majority of them are unregistered, and the government should not know where they are. So it's these type of definitions going forward, if they are to go forward, which could potentially be very dangerous because they seek to socially re-engineer our community going forward, and ultimately provide for the confiscation of people's rights, freedoms, and property. So when this is readdressed, and it will be readdressed, we have to be very, very adamant about having that type of language stripped out of future legislation.
Yeah, you know what? And the way they're doing it also is they created a firearms advisory committee. Well, I guess recreated is probably a better word for it. And everybody knows that it's going to be lopsided. It's going to be lopsided with liberal bureaucrats, lawyers, politicians. We're hoping that we get a seat on it, but at the end of the day, even if we do, we're not going to agree with anything they put forward. So I don't know. It's good that we're going to be there on the ground floor, but as to accomplish something, if they give us a seat on this committee, I don't think we can accomplish a lot. We can definitely put some input into it, but they're not going to listen to us. That was proven in the Senate. There was some really, really good testimony from a lot of people besides us, and like I say, it went to deaf ears. Senator Plett, 100% on our side. And he pleaded with the independents and the liberal senators, for at least some consultation with First Nations people and firearms groups, hunting groups, sporting groups that it affects, but they weren't interested in that. Their mind was made up. This is all just putting it through the motions just to get this bill in play before the next election.
Yeah, it was. Go ahead.
A couple of points there. Sorry, a couple of points there. When we were in Senate, and I watched the entire thing, I want to say that out of all of the days of witnesses, whether it's Sec U or Sec D, there were only 2 days where you had any individuals that were actually anti-gun. Everybody else was fully on board with scrapping this legislation completely. So the fact that they disregarded the absolute overwhelming majority of witnesses was absolutely ridiculous. And the ones that they did have, and we're not going to mention them because a lot of them were victims groups or social justice groups, things like that. And I understand that a lot of this legislation was kind of geared towards violence against women and stuff like that, but it still didn't even address that, right? And the fact that they weren't addressing that, and that other groups are coming forward saying, well, this puts the onus on the victim, you can't do that, and yet they just bulldozed over top of that. We had a lot of senators that were really, really involved heavily with First Nations or were First Nations that were saying that you guys are always talking about reconciliation. This is not reconciliation. That's Senator Anderson, who is First Nations, who was like, this is wrong. What are you doing? And they just bulldozed over her too and just didn't care. Two things which I found really, really funny is Senator Kutcher, who's obviously very, very liberally inclined, completely disregarded about the Firearms Advisory Committee. And that's the biggest part of this entire legislation is they're writing themselves a blank check to be able to ban whatever they want. Here's this Firearms Advisory Committee. They're, we've decided, for example, magazines, and now magazines are getting banned. Okay, what are you doing, right? And these are people making laws about guns. They have no idea. So you want to talk about pin magazines, and in their mind, they're getting rid of AK-47 magazines and extended SKS magazines. Well, what about an SVT-40? It's 100 years old, and you're gonna now I have to scrap my SVT-40 magazine because it's got a rivet in it. You've already kind of destroyed it already. What are you doing? So that in essence is so ridiculous to me. It's people making decisions, and I've said it so many times. I understand victims, and I apologize for what has happened to them, and I'm not apologize because I had nothing to do with it, but I sympathize. But I mean, if you get hit by a car, it doesn't automatically make you a mechanic. You don't know what you're talking about, and so let's work on something.
Yeah. Just to jump in here, while we're on the topic of Senator Kutcher, he's the same guy that made the statement that said that 68% of Canadians are in favor of this bill and the handgun freeze and the order in council. And he had some sort of data that wasn't backed by anything. And NFA provided 3 peer-reviewed reports to challenge him. And I can assure you, I don't think they even looked at him.
No.
Well, and when he came out with his paperwork, we actually did the research, and we found the committee that had actually done that study, and it was so ridiculous. It was like they phoned up a random amount of people and asked them if they supported banning assault guns in Canada, and they made it sound like they were banning grenade launchers and fully automatic AK-47s. Of course, they're going to say yes.
Look. What we are dealing with here, what Bill C-21 was, political theater. Okay, there's just no other way to put it. Okay, and they talk about we're getting rid of this. They're not getting rid of anything. The magazine issue, and we visited this before, and it began in the early 1990s when magazines were targeted, and at that time, that's when the magazine capacity regulations were imposed. Okay. And it was done very, very ham-fisted, very, very haphazardly. There wasn't a lot of thought put into it. And a lot of people who were law-abiding and wanted to continue to be law-abiding were negatively affected by it because nobody knew how to comply. And you're in a similar situation now. In my business, I still run into situations where people are in possession of overcapacity magazines that they've had for over 30 years. And I didn't know. Nobody told me. Well, no, the onus was on you to understand how, why, and where the laws changed. So when you talk about we're going to target magazines, this also recently came up with the Ruger 1022 magazine issue. It just basically, was posted to the Firearms Center website late on a Friday afternoon and was up to you to comply. And those magazines are still out there. And literally the millions of magazines targeted by this law who are now in the hands of licensed firearms owners who think they are in compliance, want to continue to be in compliance, it's going to be insane. But you know what? It's meant to be, because they want to create as much havoc and as much disinformation, confusion among licensed firearms owners that people inevitably become criminals, become criminalized, and are targeted by the firearms control system and our court system. And I have to tell you, I'm disgusted by it because it's being done by people who don't know what the hell they're doing, who don't understand the issue, and have no business legislating. Have I made myself clear?
I think so, Blair. I think you're pretty clear on the topic. In the NFA, we've said this all along. It's a tiered approach to get rid of all firearms in Canada. We talk a lot about Bill C-68, but it started long before Bill C-68. Some of this stuff started in the 60s, and it's progressively, it's just a steady tiered approach by on the United Nations request to have it done by 2030, and we're going to do everything in our power to make sure that doesn't happen. But they want to get rid of all firearms in Canada, and actually, on the world body, they want to get rid of all civilian-owned firearms in the world. And Justin Trudeau Liberals are just pulling hard to make that happen.
Well, Rick, look, I mean, it's like this. I mean, there's just no other way to look at it. But the fact of the matter is, this Liberal government, the Liberal government of Justin Trudeau, has played its hand. And I remember 1995, Alan Rock saying, we don't want to take your hunting rifles. Said it publicly. It was on the evening news. Well, now they want to take your hunting rifles, and Justin Trudeau has said that publicly. It's on the evening news. So that is their agenda. They will never again be able to go out and say, we don't want to target legitimate firearms owners. We don't want to target legitimate hunters. They will never be able to make that case again. We know the end goal here is civil disarmament. And frankly, that has got to be addressed by the next government. Okay.
Yeah. You know what? It's more than Alan Rock, dude. Justin Trudeau himself said that he'll never take away firearms from law-abiding Canadians. He made that statement before he was a prime minister. And what's he doing now? A complete shift. Well, it's a classic Liberal move, but that's what he has done. He made that statement. It's well documented. He made a statement that he doesn't want to take away guns from law-abiding Canadians. Well, guess what? That's exactly what he's doing.
He lied, and we can say that now.
Yep.
I mean, literally, you said that then, and now you're saying something different, and now we're calling you on it. And we can't call you a liar. No, I mean, they are going to, the Liberal Party of Canada going forward, in its relationship with people, with Canadians who believe in rights and freedoms and property, is going to have a really big problem, because this is going to come back. You wanted to confiscate people's property. What was that all about? Well, no, what they always bring up is we don't want to take all guns. Okay,
Yeah.
it's not all guns. Well, no, that's where it starts, and we've seen this before, and that is why the opposition to universal registration was so strong in the 1990s. Is people knew that they're lying to us. They tell us one thing, they're going to do another, and you see it today. And they are using the remnants of that legislation, Bill C-68. A large part of it is still the Firearms Act of Canada to do it. The tools are there. The universal registration component isn't, in so many words, but the rest of the tools are. So going forward, this is going to be a question of resisting civil disarmament. And the next government, when it legislates, is going to have to legislate based on that.
Yeah, just a correction on that. There is some registration still going on in Quebec. Quebec still has a long gun registry, so
this is true.
Yeah. So, but most of Canada it doesn't have one, but Quebec definitely does. And we're working hard in Quebec too to make some changes there. But it's tough.
We need more Quebecers to help us.
Absolutely.
We need more gun owners in general to help us, really.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Nathan. For the 2.2 to 2.4 million gun owners, wherever it's at right now, if at least 50% would jump on board with a gun lobby like ours, things would change. There's strength in numbers, but when there's less than 10% of firearms owners, challenging the government on any firearms legislation, how can you win?
Well,
the liberals understand votes, and when we don't have the numbers on our side, making letting the politicians know it's hard. We need to, everybody needs to join some sort of lobby. I hope they join ours, but everybody needs to join a lobby and get into the fight.
Well, let me frame it this way. Yeah, I think we do have the numbers. Per capita, Canada has the most firearms owners. I think it's one of the highest per capita for firearms owners in the world. So they are there, and they do vote. We've proved that in the past. We're going to prove that in the next election. But the fact of the matter is, we need more people involved in political activism, and certainly in NFA. And we've got great people right now, and we've had great people in the past. But we need new people coming into this organization, because I don't know about you guys, but I'm getting pretty long in the tooth here. And,
yeah.
Eventually, I need somebody to get on board. So if you have an interest in firearms politics, or just politics in general, and you believe in this Canadian right and cultural tradition, you need to get on board with us, because I would say it's your duty as a Canadian to protect the rights and freedoms of your fellow Canadians, and make sure that our Canadian right and cultural tradition of firearms ownership continues in the future. I mean, not just in a muted and controlled and submissive way like you see in other countries, but in a very, 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 very strong and politically important way, the way it is now. And frankly, the Liberals have written off a whole section of Canadian society. I mean, not just people who actually own firearms, but people who believe in rights and freedoms, who believe in free speech, who believe in freedom of movement and freedom of conscience. I mean, the Liberals have attacked these people as a group. I think they're going to be paying for that in the next election. But moving forward, and especially when we have a new government that may want to legislate in favor of those rights and freedoms, the more people you have on board demanding that, the more you're going to get. And that's what we need to do now.
Yeah, and the thing is, the trend we've been seeing too with Canada's National Firearms Association, we're getting members that aren't firearms owners. We're getting members that are, freedom-loving people that are joining our organization to help. They're not even firearms owners, but they're joining because, we're fighting for our rights and freedoms. And, that's our mandate. Our rights and freedoms. And people are joining, which is great. And I hope more of them join.
Yeah, absolutely.
To the point that Blair just made, I just want to make a comment here and answer a question. So I'm monitoring 5 different social media platforms right now that we're live streaming on, and we are getting a question over and over, and then people asking if we can actually answer that question right away here. So the question that's all over here is, can Poilievre abolish C-21 even with a majority and Senate stacked with liberals? The answer is that he can work towards it. And unfortunately, yeah, the Senate is stacked with liberals. We just lost 2 more conservative senators that were replaced by liberal senators. And you have to push it through the Senate before we can get rid of a law, before we can repeal a law. And that's going to be difficult. But the problem is not getting, in every other election that I've been involved with in the NFA, the difficult situation has been to get a conservative government into power so that we actually have somebody that'll listen to us, that'll talk to us, that'll at least acknowledge us and not use us as a wedge issue and insult us and berate us and villainize us and use us to win another election. We now have the opportunity where there's no ifs, ands, or buts. Justin Trudeau's done. He's out. He's gone. There's no way he can win unless something absolutely crazy happens. Pierre Poilievre is going to be our next prime minister. Yeah. That's not a fight anymore. The fight now is you need to support us. You need to support firearms lobbies. Get in there, join us, get involved, get active so that we're a priority with this new government going in. Okay, the carbon tax is obviously the biggest priority right now. Rights and freedoms are a huge issue now after the Freedom Convoy and a bunch of other things. However you feel about it, it doesn't matter. Rights and freedoms are now a huge thing. This new CPC government is not shirking away from things like the former ones did. They are actually saying now, oh no, supporting sustenance hunters and things like that. Now they're saying sport shooters. Great. That's a step in the right direction. You're actually talking plain speak with us now. They absolutely can. The only issue is we're going to need a very, very strong firearms lobby that's willing to go in there and push for this, and that they're going to be willing to listen to.
I understand people's concerns about getting legislation through the Senate, but the Senate ultimately cannot hold up legislation of a majority government. Okay, that is the will of the Canadian people, and if a Senate, if biased senators made it their cause or their reason, I think it would probably spark such a demand for Senate reform in Canada on the level that you wouldn't believe, that I think a Poilievre government would start pursuing that. So I understand, yeah, you may have a hostile Senate, and who knows what that Senate looks like in the future when a Poilievre government is addressing this issue. So can that government do it? You're darn right it can. And it can also create the conditions for passing that legislation as well. So this is not a doom and gloom issue. We have the potential to do this. I mean, in past years, I mean, we could not elect those governments. We could not elect the majority governments necessary to do that. Now we can, and we can also set the stage for getting it through a Senate that might resist it, because look, this is the will of the Canadian people. If you try to hold it up, you are actually defying the will of Parliament and defying the will of Canadian people. So that's not your job, senators.
Yeah, exactly. And I just wanted to touch a little more on that. As far as the Order in Council, that's a stroke of a pen on the change of a government to get rid of the Order in Council, banning I guess about 18 or 1900 types of firearms now. Blair made some really good comments about the Senate, and the big one is senators are going to bow to pressure from Canadians, and we saw this at SecD. The Liberal and Independent senators were throttled with letters from members, firearms owners across Canada, freedom-loving people, and they actually accused us of telling our the NFA. They actually, when I sat there, they actually accused us of actually authoring a letter and having our members send it to the Senate, which we absolutely did not. We asked our members to write the Senate, and our members stepped up to the plate and did, and they were inundated. And it actually came up in SecD that these senators were getting letters. Just their people couldn't handle the volume of letters they were getting, so it works. And I say continue doing that. Keep writing letters to your MPs and to your senators. It works. Believe me, it works. And when this government changes, it'll work then. It'll work more then, because you know what? These senators, they might be wearing different colors in the Senate, but they're still going to have to listen to the people. It's supposed to be a chamber of fair and sober thought. Well, we discovered that it's not really that, but maybe it will be with a new government.
Well, and not only that too, but you're talking about the Senate right now, and we do have some extremely strong voices there right now. And I know that a couple are, like I said, retiring, but we had like Senator Platt, man. Oh, he was killing it. He was killing it in there. Carignan, Dagenet, and Dagenet, which I was surprised because he actually, although a conservative, he also supported Jean Charest, who obviously isn't a huge fan of firearms owners. But I mean, man, oh man, he fought long and hard for us. And then we also had Senators Anderson and Prosper, who are First Nations, who really fought too. They fought for them, obviously, for First Nations rights, right? But I mean, a Canadian is a Canadian is a Canadian, supposedly. So, and it was pretty amazing to watch these two First Nation senators in there just pleading, just absolutely pleading with Liberals, like, listen to us. This is wrong. People are going to get mauled by polar bears if you push this through, if the Firearms Advisory Committee gets in there. And we know what the Firearms Advisory Committee is planning on doing. We you know, a lot of individuals out there that live in Liberal ridings that test the waters, and they send little letters in, and they see what they have to say, and they talk to them, and they report back to us. And we know, and I'm not going to mention anyone's names, but there's been Liberal MPs. Oh yeah, we're going for that SKS. We're coming for it. We're coming for it. Don't you worry. And they think they're talking to somebody that's on their side, and they immediately email us and they tell us, hey, guess what? This guy wants to take away my SKS. What do I do? Well, join us and get involved as much as you can, because the fact that they're now banning SKSs, I mean, we had one senator from Quebec right at the end there talking about he was terrified. My God, the SKS, it has the same bullet as an AK-47. How can that be allowed in Canada? Well, that's an extremely small bullet. My God, if we took you out to rob furlongs, would you survive? Would you, go into cardiac arrest over actual
just to clarify what Nathan's talking about, the SKS and this Firearms Advisory Committee, and the amendments with the mags and stuff, and they like to use the word readily convertible, and that's where they're talking with an SKS, because everybody knows that has an SKS that basically have a bullet welded in the bottom of the drop down magazine, or some have them converted to Tapco magazines, I guess, with a rivet in them. That basically, those are two things they're after. So people need to understand it's just about every semi-automatic firearm that's built, and there's definitely not going to be any new stuff coming into Canada. If you think you're going to get a new Keltec or something coming into Canada or something, it's not going to happen, because this Firearms Advisory Committee will shoot it down long before it hits the border. Not
until this government is gone.
Yeah. That's right.
Well, and if we wanted to talk about property rights too, we did have that Liberal Senator Youssef, who was, he was kind of headlining this entire thing with C-21. And I did appreciate at the end, he got up and asked Parliament and the government, he said, well, there should be a couple of stipulations put in here for airing, because we had a couple of individuals come forward and say, oh, we had these heirlooms, and if they take away, those people will feel very angry about it. And he said, I have an old car. I have an old, I can't remember what, some classic car that he wants
Charger or something. Yeah.
Yeah. And I want to leave it to my daughter one day. And I know that my government is pushing through carbon emissions engines will be illegal one day. And I want her to have the choice as to whether she wants to keep that or not. And that's the only, I'm not a gun guy, but that's the only way I can kind of put it together. And it's like, well, doesn't that just show you how much this government respects your property rights, right? Like,
there's no question. They have no respect for the property rights of Canadians, period, end of story. I mean, they cannot make that case anymore. Oh no, it's just guns. Guns are property. And if you dismiss that, then you have no right calling yourself the government of Canada, and you should be removed. And they're going to be. And there's going to be a lot of work required to correct this. But I mean, we're going to be on the job day one. And I think the Liberals are going to find that they made a very, very serious mistake with this, because it will have laid the groundwork for massive change, massive firearms law reform on behalf of the next government. Change is coming, and it's coming like a freight train, and there's going to be a reckoning. Okay.
Yeah.
The firearms law reform legislation of the next government is going to reflect that. All of the cumulative legislation and regulation perpetrated against Canadians by the Liberals over the last 30 years is going to be on the table. It's the only way. Current legislation and regulation is so fundamentally broken and insane that the only way to fix it is to start at square one. And square one is to write a law that targets actual criminals and actual criminal acts. in the pursuit of public safety and not target the rights, freedoms, and property of Canadians. And I think most of us in this country are already there. I think the broad mass of Canadians understand this, but the Liberals and the NDP are not. And for you guys out there, I mean, maybe your union is saying you got to support the NDP. Don't believe Poilievre and the Conservatives; they're not on your side. You got a choice to make here. Okay, if you want this corrected, there's just no other way it's going to be, and that's going to be under a Conservative government. Liberals and the NDP are not there, and they're going to fight to maintain the status quo on gun laws. And we all know what the end goal here, and that's the disarmament of Canadians.
Yeah, and I just want to make a point too. We're not going to. The NFA doesn't endorse candidates or governments, but we're going to tell you how we think, and we're going to give you the information on everybody. And you know what? If the other parties want to contact us on their firearms, on their firearms platform, we'll be more than happy to listen. But like I say, we don't endorse governments. Of course, we're going to give you our opinion, how we feel about Poilievre and the Conservatives. But at the end of the day, you know what? Look at the facts and make up your own minds. Don't go by heart wrenching. I had a bad experience with CPC in the past with Aaron O'Toole. Don't you know what? Look at the facts. Look where they're going and look where they're going with firearms. Yeah,
and I'd like to address that too, because I mean, the way the parties stand in Canada today on firearms law reform, well, we know the Liberals and the NDP want your guns. They want to take your guns. They want to disarm you. The Conservatives, the Poilievre Conservatives, have been fairly upfront about being supportive for Canadian firearms owners and also Canadian rights and freedoms. The PPC, and this is very interesting. Okay, the PPC, which is considered the other right-wing party, has developed some very, very interesting firearms policies on firearms law reform. And you know what? I really think it shows the strength of our community that we have two parties in this country that want to gain the votes of firearms owners, want to gain the votes of people who believe in rights and freedoms. My God, that we have come so far where, I mean, I can remember 30, 40 years ago with the progressive Conservatives, everybody was anti-gun. Gun control was here. You were going to have to live with it, and you're going to probably lose your gun. That's not the Canada of the future. Thank God for that. We have alternatives. We have a party that can form government and probably will form government. And we have another party that is interested in listening to Canadians about their concerns on firearms law reform and is actually writing policies that are quite intuitive on it. So, this is not a glass half empty sort of proposition here. We've come a long way.
Yeah. In our opinion, though, just keep in mind today, where we're at today and what we need to do today. And, what party do we need to put in there today that's going to help something, help us, help firearms owners and any property rights people across Canada. It's great that the PPC has a really good, a good gun platform, but at the end of the day, let's worry about today. Let's get a government in here that's going to help us today, because we can't wait for another party. And this is just my opinion, guys. We can't wait for another party to develop seats, 20 years from now to be a force to be reckoned with in Ottawa. We can't wait. We need to move now. I have, all of us have guns in our safes that we can't use. Everybody with a big run on ARs, I'm sure everybody's got some sort of firearm that's on the list. And we can't wait. Let's focus on today. Granted, there's other parties out there, and I'm sure there's other parties going to pop up there too that are going to, try to grab firearms owners. But make up your own mind. Take a good hard look at where we are today and what do we need to do to get it out of the current situation we're in.
Yeah, I think most of us are doing exactly that, Rick. We're at a point in this country where change has to happen now. and we have to have a government that can legislate that change, and that has to be a majority government. So I think a lot of Canadians are looking at it from a lot of different perspectives. We look at it from the perspective of firearms. We also look at it from the perspective of rights and freedoms and property, the larger issue. And you mentioned that senator who wanted to leave his car to his daughter. That's another example of property rights. And if he's worried about it, my God, I mean, the current Canadian government has lost its way, if it ever knew its way, and is actually now a danger to those rights, freedoms, and the property of Canadians. And I think people are ready to do something about it, and ready for a federal election.
Yeah, I don't use this word too much, but we're definitely dealing with a tyrannical government. I actually don't even like using that word, but I'm going to use it because it's gone outside the box with the demands and what they're doing to us, and not just us, what they're doing to everybody. What's going to be the next mandates they lay on Canadians? It's funny, they lay these mandates on us, but we can't protest, and our Charter of Rights and Freedoms allows us to protest, but when people try, and all of a sudden you're talking Emergency Measures Act, or I still call it's the old War Measures Act as far as I'm concerned.
Let's call it that.
Yeah, it's the War Measures Act. Really, it was intended during times of conflict, but you know what? It's just like anything else. It's the Order in Council. There's another good one. They're using and abusing the Order in Council, which was never intended to do what they're doing with it, but they're taking advantage of it because they can. So, that's a couple points that we really, really need to get across to people. It's about control, it's about money, it's about votes, and it's about, manipulating Canadians, and that's exactly what they're doing. You know what? Vote for us or we'll seize your bank accounts. It's come down to that, and it's not a pretty picture, people. So, this is our position, and I hope you take our point of view, evaluate it, and make the right decision.
And not only that, but we are getting a lot of comments coming in here and just asking us, like, why don't you talk about the real plan, the real thing behind all of this? And we have multiple times. It's civil disarmament. It has nothing to do with anything else, really. It's just using us as a wedge issue to win elections, and civil disarmament. And whoever's behind that is whoever's behind that. But that's what the end be all to end all is. Now, going back to Aaron O'Toole and the major flip flop, and why many people do not particularly like the CPC right now in our communities. I understand that completely. I mean, we were all shocked by that. But MPs that will not be named, that we talk to on a very frequent basis, right? I mean, we've mentioned a couple of times, listen, we're pitching things out for you guys, but we need a little bit more, a little bit more solid talk from you. We're dealing with a lot of the fallout from what Aaron O'Toole said, and they'll turn and look at us and go, yeah, us too, right? They were... Yeah. Pretty much a lot of them felt just as betrayed by that. So
I think people have to remember what happened as a result of that. What happened as a result of his waffling and his flip flop in that election, which lost him the election. But look what happened. He was ejected as leader based on the fact that he stepped off of Conservative Party policy on firearms law reform. I mean, that was one of the main issues that those MPs, look, he backed off. I mean, this is a core issue for us. These are our core voters, and we lost an election. We should have won because this guy went off message. Now, we don't know if he actually believed what he said or understood what he said, but he was weak on the issue. We paid for it. We lost our voters who believe in rights and freedoms and property, and that's not going to happen again. And they did something about it. And I think those Conservative MPs need to be given credit for it. Okay. And I think they stepped up and they did the right thing, and it gave us the party that we have today.
Yeah.
And people have to look at it that way.
Pierre Poilievre has dug in deep for on the firearms issue. He's sticking to his guns. I've been to several of his rallies all over the country, and he's sticking to his guns, and I appreciate that. And you know what, if he keeps going in that direction, I think some changes are in the near future. like I say, we just have to get an election. And, there's another thing too, write letters to your MPs and tell them how happy, especially the Liberal MPs out there, tell them how unhappy you are, And I'm sure that the Liberals are getting some pressure from within. Actually, I know they are, because Charles Zach and our lobbyist in Ottawa has been hearing that. So, I don't know how long they can keep this shoestring government together, with their marriage made in hell with the NDPs. But, like I say, put some pressure on them. We're at the end of the day, the Liberals want to control us, but let's control them. Let's let them know how Canadians really feel. They need to hear from us. They need to hear from firearms owners. They need to hear from everybody of what the direction this country's going in, and what you feel about the Liberals.
And people need to remember, we've defeated governments before on this issue. We defeated a Liberal government in 2006, largely on the failure of their firearms laws. We had major firearms law reform legislation in 2012, the first firearms law reform legislation in modern Canadian political history. We had further reforms under the government that did that. So we have won on this issue. It's not a one-way street anymore. Okay, and I know a lot of people look at federal politics, and maybe you're not familiar with it. I encourage you to get involved and become interested in Canadian politics, because it is within your interest to do so as a Canadian citizen. Okay.
Yeah.
If you want to own a gun in this country today, you better be politically active, or at least politically aware, to understand how this issue shapes up. And I think people need to remember, we've had wins in Canada. We've overturned legislation. We've defeated governments, Liberal governments. And we're going to do it again, because we are a political force that they cannot stop. They cannot stop. This is the last desperate measures of a government that's going down in flames. And yes, they want to hurt us. They want to hurt us bad. They want to hurt you. They want to put you in a legally precarious situation where you may be out trying to be a responsible firearms owner and doing some legitimate hunting or target shooting, but because you messed up on one little regulation, now you're going to lose your firearms license and your gun. That is the Liberal plan. This has nothing to do with public safety. This has got everything to do with targeting Canadians that they don't like.
Yeah, and you know what? They need to hear from people like you and I. When we went to the Senate, when I gave at my testimony at the Senate, I didn't go in there as an academic, a lawyer, or a bureaucrat. I went in there as one of us that everybody that's out there in firearms owners across Canada. That's who they need to hear from. They don't need to hear from lawyers and how they're going to adjust, the parts of the Firearms Act, parts of the Criminal Code. They need to hear from everybody like us out there, how we can fix this Firearms Act, how we can fix the Criminal Code and make it palatable for everybody, because right now it's not. It's a one-sided document. It's a couple of documents that are drawn by lawyers and bureaucrats, and these academics that they think they know something. They don't know anything. They're not out in the at gun clubs and hunting in the field, or participating in sporting matches. They're not out there. They don't know what's going on. They don't know how hard it is for us, just to get to a gun club. With handguns, everything's got to be double locked, and permits in place, and registration certificates. They have no idea how that's affecting us. It's a process just to go out there to have some fun, which isn't right. And Blair made a really good point. This is we're tired of this, and and the NFA, I can assure you, is working. We're working our asses off to change this, and that's just the way it is right now. And people said that there was people out there who said, well, we lost with C-21, we lost with the Order in Council. We didn't lose. You know what? In my opinion, and the NFA's opinion, everybody that's sitting on this panel tonight, we did not lose. We had a minor setback, and I can assure you 2024 is going to be the NFA's finest hour. We've got a plan, and we're sticking to it.
Beautiful.
Absolutely.
Well, and on that note, you want to throw up our 2023 year-end video? We already posted on YouTube.
Yeah,
but
you know what? We spent 45 minutes talking about C21. Let's talk about some other stuff. Let's talk about 2024.
Beautiful. Okay, well, I'm going to throw this on stage. You guys should be able to talk while it goes on. It's what we did this year.
I don't see you. Let's go.
Big shout out to all those guys in that video. They made a lot of things happen. Board of directors, our office staff, second, and a big shout out.
Shane Getson.
Rob Furlong, great guy, great supporter of firearms rights.
Gatex.
Gatex. Great people at Cadex, Canadian company. In my opinion, the best rifles made. Silverdale Gun Club, we love working with Silverdale. Joan at Silverdale, great lady, great fun to work with. That was our politician shoot. We had a bunch of politicians shooting guns for the first time. Emily Brown, running in Burlington. Our AGM in Montreal, great time. Passionate people that attended that. Guy Morant, bunch of great speakers. Even with the language barrier, it was good. TACOM, our setup was a big hit at TACOM. Some of our field officers, great guys. Solomon Friedman did an outstanding job for us at TACOM and in the Order in Council case.
Top firearms lawyer in Canada.
Yeah. Newfoundland, we were out there promoting the NFA. We did an event out there, a gun show out there that the NFA sponsored. Met a bunch of great people out there. There's Ginger, our office manager. Rebel News, we work a lot with Rebel News. They're a great right-wing organization, and we work closely with them. I do a lot of stuff with Sheila Gunn Reid, and great organization. Of course, we mentioned Cadex before. We get a lot of our stuff from Cadex as we like to support Canadian business. Some of our winners, some of our big gun winners. Yep, this is that's at the Senate. I encourage you to have a look at the video that we put out from the Senate just to get our perspective on that. It's on Canada's National Firearms Association YouTube and other platforms. Have a look, check it out.
So there you go. That was our year.
Very nice.
Yeah, and I just want to say again, thank you, especially to our board of directors, for myself and Blair. We've got a bunch of the most hardworking people that you've ever, passionate people about gun rights. And, we're all on the same plane. We're going in the same direction. We're spread out across Canada, and a big shout out to our board of directors. Those guys do a fantastic job, and, I can't say enough about them.
And thanks to you, our members, because without you, we couldn't do any of this. You look at
100%.
things like NFA Talk, our president nationwide. You've seen us at TACOM, you've seen us in Ottawa at the Senate. It's all because you support us and you send us there. You know, your membership fee, your membership dues, your donations. That's what gets us done. And it's a sad fact. The more money an organization has, the more it can do. We're not squandering it. Okay. I mean, our first and foremost thought on this is we have to be working towards protecting our members' rights, protecting the rights of Canadians, but also advancing them. So, fiscal responsibility is foremost. But without it, we couldn't get it done. Thank you for your continued support, and let's grow this organization even larger than it is, and establish rights and freedoms in Canada that Liberal and NDP governments cannot attack.
Yeah. You know, and I just want to add to that. You know, we basically worked from coast to coast in 2023, but there is points that we wanted to go to that we just couldn't, because, you know, we have to juggle our funding. You know, we have to look after our members. We have to look after our members' donations and money. 2024, we need to touch some of these. There's parts of Canada that we need to reach. The far north for one part. You know, Manitoba, another area that we need to get the word out more. There's parts of Canada, and it just, we're doing the best we can with the resources we have. Like I say, your help makes this happen, and we just need to make it happen more.
Well, and speaking of places that we don't get a lot, we've really, really worked in the last couple of years here to really, really fix the situation in Quebec as best we can. And just want to throw out a shout out to Pierre Lefebvre, Francois Picard, and Guy Morin, our speakers at the AGM in Quebec. You know, it was a massive success. It was phenomenal to be out there, and just coming from a guy from Alberta, it was pretty cool to be in Montreal like that, right? It's supposed to be the bastion of the enemy, but you know what? Yeah. The great guys, and loved them. They were the best. So, and so many of them wanted to come out to Alberta, and man, oh man, you're more than welcome. Yeah. So absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. You know what? And, a big shout out, like we were talking about, Martin Boucher did a lot of work with our Quebec director, Chuck Gauthier. Big shout out to Martin. He reached a lot of Quebec shooters. I appreciate him, and I hope he, I know he's going to continue doing what he's doing, but he's done a great job out there working with us, and also a big shout out to Patrice from KDEX. Patrice is he's right on with us with our stuff. Anytime we have a question or we need something, Patrice can make it happen as far as KDEX goes. And I'd like to, while we're doing shout outs, I'm going to make a big shout out to Rob Furlong too. Rob actually provided one of a level 1 rifle course for myself and Chuck Gauthier. It was very nice of him. KDEX provided the firearms, and we went out there, and we spoke to a lot of people at Furlong's that didn't know what we were all about. This is the middle of Alberta. Where firearms owners are strong, but like I say, it's people like you that need to get the word out besides us. We're going to do everything we can to get the word out about the NFA, but we need your help. Spread the word about us, tell people what we're about, what we're doing, and we're not giving up. Like I said before, we're dug in 100%, and we're taking this fight to Ottawa, and we're not going to back down a bit.
Support Canadian firearms industry. You mentioned KDEX. Support Canadian firearms industry, because they are under attack. We're all under attack, but especially industry, because they know if there is no industry in Canada, this is another further wedge into ending all of this. What this is a political, an economic, and a cultural war against Canadians. And you got to realize that. And when you come from that premise, you understand that what we have to do to stop this and correct it.
Yeah, join a gun lobby. I'd appreciate it if you join ours, but join a gun lobby. Somebody that's fighting for your rights. And it's got to happen. We have a voice, but we need a louder voice. Blair mentioned earlier that we have a strong voice, but there's a untold number of people out there that are the silent few that need to express themselves as far as this goes. It'll for every person that joins the fight, it takes us that much further to our goal.
Absolutely. So one last thing that I want to hit here, obviously we're winding down. One last thing I want to hit here, and it was a question that came up multiple times on the 5 different platforms that we're streaming on right now, is when does C21 come into effect? And I can answer that to an extent. Is it's already been in effect since October last year, because they signed an OIC that kind of already made it law. And obviously it hasn't changed anything. Gun crime is still skyrocketing. They're not really doing anything. The only thing that it has affected, and Blair mentioned that they haven't taken anything yet. Well, yes and no, because they are, and he can speak to this, is they are now, like we deal with, and I know I deal with it on a daily basis, getting emails from family members who are losing things now because some old collector, someone passes away, or they move, or something happens, and 100-year-old Webley revolvers are, the RCMP are now going after them because now they are prohibited firearms. You cannot transfer, you cannot sell, you cannot air. We've got individuals that we've spoken to that have firearms that are extremely important to Canadian history that had to be surrendered to a museum. And we've had a lot of collectors contact us and go, oh, well, what if I just get it deactivated? Well, that doesn't work anymore now, because the Firearms Advisory Committee has also explicitly stated, or at least we don't have the Firearms Advisory Committee yet, but we've had MPs state, Liberal MPs state, that they are going after replica firearms as well, that there will be anything that's gun shaped will now be slated for destruction. So that includes deactivated firearms. Those become replica firearms. So we deal with that on a daily basis now, and we're trying to help families get them into the hands of individuals. I mean, if you watch the Senate, we had Olympians. There was an Olympian that, or a competitor, that her gun was stolen in Venezuela. And right after, there was the Igercich shooting competitions in Greece. And she couldn't even get an Igercich gun replacement for Greece because this government is just not listening to her, not returning her calls, not letting her get them. So things are already starting to happen. And
it will have to be corrected with a new government. But look, if you find yourself in a situation where you're holding a registration for a handgun, and you've sort of or any firearm that's affected by these laws, contact us. We have the answers. We can provide you with a guide on what you need to do. As limited as it is, as limited as the options are right now, we will provide you with a real world guide on what you can do to preserve your rights and property, okay, as we work towards defeating this government.
Yeah. And that's what we did as well with the Tavor incident that occurred, and I thought I'd just bring that up as well.
As everyone knows, there was a variant of the Israeli Tavor rifle that was imported into Canada. I think there was something like a couple of hundred imported as restricted firearms. RCMP revoked the registrations, made the accusation that they were automatic firearms, and we are currently guiding people through the reference hearing process on that. I think we heard from most people who were affected by this and gave them the information they needed. But again, it just shows you this is a multifaceted approach to civil disarmament, and it comes from many different areas. It comes from government, it comes from bureaucracy, and some quarters of law enforcement. Okay. Ultimately, the solution is a new government and new legislation, but Canada's National Firearms Association, will fight tooth and nail for your rights and property, your lawfully owned and acquired property, because every attack, I don't care, every attack on any gun owner is an attack on us all.
And every time something happens, Blair and I are totally inundated with, and our office too, inundated with phone calls, and we take them all. We speak to everybody. We don't, we don't push people to the side. It's, we really get slammed when something happens. When for example, C21. We're here to help you. And Blair, 100%. As far as anybody's will or aired firearms go, as any legal aspects, Blair will help you through and steer you in the right direction. I'll help you with some of it, but a lot of that stuff, especially heirlooms and stuff, I just shift it to Blair because he's an expert at it.
Canadian firearms law is confusing, and it's Byzantine, and it's meant to be. Okay, because very few people have the patience or the interest to sit down and try to understand it, and the government bureaucrats and a lot of Crown prosecutors know that. Easier just to give up the gun, but the fact of the matter is, there's a principle here, and I think it's tied up into what this country is all about, and we need to stand up for that. So if you have a problem with firearms laws, if you find yourself in a situation where you don't understand what's going on, call us. We will give you real world answers, real world guide, plain language answers on what you need to do. Okay. That is the service we provide. And hey, we don't just provide it to members, we'll provide it to anybody.
Exactly. We're coming to the end of this thing, and I know that Nathan's been looking around, but I just want to, just to touch on some stuff. We got some cool giveaways coming up. Our big one is our shadow, and you know what? If you guys haven't made a donation to get a chance to win the shadow, I suggest you do, because it's a great package. It's a $15,000 package that the NFA is giving away, and it was the gun that won the King of the 2 Mile at Rob Furlong's not that long ago. So maybe you want to throw that up there, Nathan. And
absolutely. Here we go.
Emerging from the darkness.
With that said, I want to give another big shout out. I want to give a big shout out to Nathan. Nathan has took our social media not to the next level. He's taken it to the stars. Nathan's the guy that puts those videos together. He does all our social media. Him and I speak every day. We're coming up with new ideas. Blair speaks them. We're coming up with new stuff all the time. And I really, you know what, Nathan? Great job in 2023. I'm so glad that you're working with us, because hey, big round of applause, man, because you're making stuff like this happen. And if anybody's around at gun shows or something, and you see Nathan around there, go speak to him. He'll be glad to talk to you. If you want to talk about, firearms and stuff from World War I or World War II, this man, I tell you, he is a walking encyclopedia of knowledge. Look behind him. Look at the Rosses and the Enfields behind him.
Listen. Ross parts. Anybody wants to come up and talk to me about Ross parts? Anybody got any Ross parts? Let me know. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think I got some Ross parts.
Listen, I've been trying to figure something out with you here. We'll talk.
Right.
We'll talk.
Yeah. You know what? I was the modern sporting rifle guy myself, but man, I'm just after working with Nathan for the last little while, man, I'm making a conversion back. All the stuff I sold over the years that I'm kicking myself in the ass for, I'm wanting back now. I was out in Newfoundland. I had a chance to shoot. Donald Feltham had a really nice Ross rifle. I had a chance to fire it out there and send some rounds down range. It was a great time. And yeah, you know what? Again, a big shout out to you, Nathan. Man, you're just doing an outstanding job. There isn't enough words to tell you what kind of job you're doing.
Thank you very much. I sincerely appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Beautiful. Well, anyway, that being said, sorry, by all means. Sorry, go ahead, Blair.
I wasn't making a point.
Oh, okay. All right. Sorry.
I was just stretching.
Okay, fair enough.
Oh yeah, and just before we go, I just want to touch, like I say, the NFA we've got a bunch of stuff planned for 2024. We're going to be right across the country. We've got a bunch of events that we want to make happen. Please come and see us. We're very personable. We're people like you, and we'll be glad to speak to any one of you, whether you're a member or not. Come out and see us at one of our events. We've got, besides the Shadow, we've got all kinds of little draws. Well, we're giving away all kinds of cool guns and other stuff. Follow us. Check out our website and follow us on social media. We've got a lot of stuff happening. It's a fluid situation. It's changing every day. So, you know what? We're there for you, and that's basically all I have to say.
Beautiful. Well, and that being said, you touched on a little bit there. What I wanted to end with is, man, oh man, we are getting shadow banned like you wouldn't believe here in the last little while. We hit some big numbers here on social media in the last few months, and we've just seen a major drop. So if everybody can like, share, subscribe, that has a lot to do with the liberal C18, C11, stuff like that. And it doesn't look like it's going to get any better. So help and get in there and join us. We need you to join us. Right now is the most important thing. We need to be able to hold the Conservatives' feet to the fire when this happens, right?
Yeah.
So let's get her done.
Yeah, and I saw a great statement the other day: do nothing, say nothing, then be nothing. You know what? We're not that. We're going to be out in front, and I implore everybody to join and jump aboard, please.
Yeah. And after the holidays, there's one of those things where, and I'm sure everybody else kind of gets this as well too, but you start to talk a little bit about politics, and you get family members that go, oh, well, anything that you own is banned. Oh, well, anything that I own is banned. You get that if you're involved with this organization or just, are semi-politically involved. And then there's you start to talk, well, Pierre Poilievre and this and that and the other and legislation, Senate, and eyes start to roll. And then there's almost this polite, I'm too good for politics. Well, you know what? Politics isn't too good for you, and it's going to change your life if you don't pay attention. So
that's right.
Yeah.
Big part of everything. So get involved. I mean, I really strongly recommend everybody get involved with the CPC right now, because obviously they're going to form the next government, and you can change things from the inside. It's really important that we do that. So
absolutely.
Anyways, beautiful. All right, gentlemen. Well, until next time.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for listening to this episode of NFA Talk. Like and follow the NFA on social media and sign up to become a member.